waiting?
Yeah, obviously. Figured I'd let you catch up. Whoa! This just got a whole lot more interesting.
Let's make this quick.
Wait a minute.
On paper, Crystal Dynamics' vision for Marvel's Avengers seems ripe with potential. Getting to play as one of the many iconic Marvel characters, each with their own unique playstyle, with a deep progression and loot system as well as an epic campaign, sign me up! But after 6 to 8 hours playing the online beta's first weekend, I'm struggling to comprehend whether the Earth's Mightiest Heroes' first big outing on consoles is actually all that mighty. The biggest takeaway I gleaned from my time with Marvel's Avengers is the fact that, for a game all about teaming up with friends, the single-player campaign is what had me the most optimistic. The beta opens with the infamous A-Day mission, which you might remember from the game's E3 2019 demo, and in practice it still feels like a set piece ripped straight out of the MCU. The mission quickly hops you between the once infallible heroes, beginning with Thor and ending with Black Widow, in a carefully curated segment that both entices the player, whilst also teaching them the basics of not only each Avenger, but also the game's core mechanics. Following this, the pace slows down considerably as we begin another mission set later in the game's story, this time featuring Bruce Banner and Kamala Khan, ending with a fun, if a little too simplistic boss battle with Abomination. These missions are the most engaging on offer throughout the beta, with the dialogue and story feeling like a perfectly adept alternative to their silver screen counterparts. Gameplay in both of the available missions was also extremely linear. While they were still undoubtedly fun, the mission design doesn't seem to incentivize player choice or experimentation. This contradicts the entire premise of its loot system and the experimentation it advertises. The loot system in Marvel's Avengers, at least in the game's early hours, also feels extremely underutilized and seems to have little effect on gameplay and player experience. It also doesn't help that all the loot acquired has the same appearance in the game's less than ideal gear menu, with the only noticeable difference between rarity being an easily missable splash of colour in the top right of the icon. The changes in stats between gear are also nearly completely missable. I did encounter gear that gave my Hulk a cosmic attack bonus on my combos, but there seemed to be little difference in terms of actual stats. Even the perk itself seemed to bear little difference in gameplay, and merely seemed to have a cosmetic difference with his hands glowing whenever I performed a ground pound. The unfortunate consequence being that I felt no drive to equip any loot I found, let alone seek it out. It's lucky though that combat outside of the loot game still feels so fun. Thanks to lead combat designer Vince Napoli's previous work on God of War, fans of that game can expect a very similar experience here. Whilst characters like Thor feel eerily similar to Kratos, others like Iron Man, Hulk and Black Widow each add their unique flair to combat encounters. Iron Man's interchangeable arsenal of repulsors, lasers and rockets are most beneficial at range, whereas someone like Kamala Khan and her transmorphing abilities are best for easy crowd control. All characters have similarities in terms of their light and heavy attacks, in combination with their mobility options, but it's up to you how you utilize their extended suite of abilities. The best compliment that could be levied to the game's combat and character design is that I can see myself maining any one of the 6 Avengers at launch. Even Black Widow, whom I initially feared would feel underpowered and under-equipped, feels legitimately great to play. Her grappling hook ability incentivizes quick rushdowns of enemies in order to blitz their health, which certainly differentiates her from, say, the Hulk and his much tankier kit. If you'd like to spend some time playing around with a couple of buddies, you can hop into Warzones. Despite the confused marketing that may say otherwise, Warzones are very much akin to the strikes of Bungie's Destiny. The beta includes 4 different areas you can play around in, ranging from densely packed woodland areas in the Pacific Northwest to the suburban city streets of downtown New York. These areas aren't open world, but are instead small chunks of a wide open area. Whilst the game does populate these areas with 2 or 3 points of interest, such as a hostage or area containing loot and other resources, outside of enemy encounters, the areas feel completely empty, taking you out of the experience. You have no real agency to explore these areas with your friends outside of getting more loot, because there's very rarely any secrets or special landmarks to discover. One of my biggest gripes with the beta, at least in its opening weekend, is the poor state of the game's online matchmaking. In the hours I spent with it, I only managed to find 2 instances of other players online without being booted back to the main menu. In any other instance, I would either join a team, only for my session to abruptly end, or find a stable connection with somebody, only to begin launching the mission and be notified another player is joining the session. Safe to say, no one ever joined. While problems like this are what the beta is for, and I'm sure it will hopefully be patched before launch, it definitely wasn't a great first impression of the suite of multiplayer content. As of right now, Marvel's Avengers definitely has my curiosity, but I'm hesitant to say whether it has my attention. Aspects such as the early campaign missions, as well as the chaotic fun of controlling these iconic heroes, definitely has me excited to play more. Unfortunately, issues such as poor online matchmaking and a fundamentally flawed loot system drag the experience down. If you're looking for a new loot-based experience to dive into, I'm sad to say, Marvel's Avengers is likely not for you.